I really need to show you this really cool thing. This is how Aisha, one of the sisters that I've helped losing weight, she lost 13 kilos in 2 months while making Qur'an, Salah, Dhikr a daily habit. And there's so many things I want to say. Let's go one by one. So first of all, I want to show you how she did it. So like you can understand how it is possible. By the way, she did this all without following a single diet, all without even having a workout plan. And I want to show you that it is possible. Too many of you out there still believe that you have to do some kind of strict dieting plan, do a crazy gym workout routine, right? And there are so many other sides to that, so many other ways you can actually get in shape while simultaneously getting closer to Allah. The cool thing about this is, first of all, Aisha from the UK, mashallah, she's probably one of the, if not the best client I've ever had. She's done it amazingly, incredibly, and she actually followed the system. And another thing I want to mention is that she told me, well, I actually asked her, like, you know, what made you want to, like, how did you even find me? Because I remember she wrote to me from out of nowhere. It was like, I need to get into your program. Like, I'm done with this, right? So her experience prior to this was like years of dealing with a lot of stuff, a lot of mental things and physical things. Obviously, many of us, like when you're in a place where you're out of shape physically, that doesn't just pop up. It's usually a lot because of a long period of mental health issues or going through some stuff. It can be trauma, it can be divorce, it can be just a lot testing you, right? And unfortunately, when we go through these periods, we oftentimes neglect our health, which we shouldn't, right? But it happens to any of us, to the best of us. And she told me, well, I watched a video of yours on YouTube, you talking about like diet and Quran and stuff like that. Hopefully, this video will be the same turning point for you as that video that she watched was the turning point for her. Because imagine if she didn't watch that video, or if she watched that video and didn't take any actions at all. And subhanallah, like this changed her life. I've seen how she joined as, being very fragile, being very insecure about a lot of things. And now she's a totally different person. I'm impressed. And every time I've told her, even like every time I go and look at the progress you made, I'm so impressed. I'm so happy to see that. Allah Mubarak, right? So let's go into it. Like, how did she manage to do this, right? So she started in at around 85 kilos when we started tracking it, and she's now at 72. And not only that, like I said, she made the istighfar, Quran, Salah a daily habit consistently. You can see, like, 100 times a streak, right? And then walking and stuff like that. So what I wanted to show you guys is her daily routine. So the way we do it, so I call it the Sunnah weight loss system. The way it works is it's not based on like a strict diet routine or a meal plan or anything like that. And it's not based on having to do a certain workout. So the question remains like, okay, if it's not dieting workout, what's left, right? Think about this. If you're watching this and you are in fact overweight, or you don't like the way you look physically, why is that? Think about it, like, why have you come to this place? Well, usually it's because you've had a number of habits that you've been doing over a long period of time that led you to where you are. So basically, usually what they say, the person you are today are because of the habits you started 6 months ago, right? Sometimes even longer than that, but usually 6 months ago, which means whatever you can decide. Like if you think like this, in 6 months, I want to lose this amount of weight, or I want to get in shape, or I want to start praying. I want to be this person. I want to be this Muslim. Take cares of their body, take care of their relation with Allah. Well, if that is where you want to go, it all depends on the habits you have today. So you can basically decide, like, Should I just sit down and wait for something to happen? Or should I take those, like start building those habits so that 6 months from now, I have a different life? Because we know if you continue in these same habits, you're going to see the same results. You're going to either be in the same place you're in now or worse, right? So the way we do it is we're creating a daily routine, right? So this is part of a 3-step structure or a 3-step system, I call it. And the first step is actually creating that structure. So in front of you, you can see, okay, for example, here on Tuesday, which is today, day of recording, she has already checked her morning weight. And this is just to see how her body, like checking in with the body, basically, how the body's feeling. Is she bloated? Is it a lot of fluids in the body? What's happening, right? And then she already completed her daily Qur'an routine. I wanted to show you that, like how it works. So obviously, it looks a little bit different on my side here. But if I click it, you can see some details about it. So I've told what we decided, like, okay, if we're going to make this Qur'an a daily routine, we need to make sure not only doing it, but also how to do it in a way that actually makes sense. Because I know in her case, there's is and was a lot of stress in terms of time being a limiting factor. So you need to take that into account, right? So in this case, it was, okay, let's find out different ways of reading Quran so that you can make it consistent. You can see here, for example, there's a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, right? This means that on any given day, she picks one of these, depending on what she can actually realistically do in terms of time. So one page maybe takes minutes, 5 minutes, not a lot of time, right? That's not what we really care about. We want it to be consistent. That's it. So now plan B is half a page, so 50% less. So if if she doesn't have any time to do plan A, she'll do plan B. Now there are going to be days where she won't even do plan B. So the minimum here, as you can see, is reading one ayah. And like, let's be honest about this. Who does not have time to read at least one ayah? Right? You have very short ayats in the Quran. You don't have to pick the longest one. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ وَالضُّحَى. Right? Barely a second, right? So that's the second habit. The cool thing about this that I want to show you guys is this. So this is kind of the summary of what she'd been doing. Which plan did she follow? So mostly she'd been doing plan A, which is pretty cool. And then you can see like, okay, plan B, plan C, sometimes none, right? And that happens. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? We just need to work towards a standard, a baseline, right? And now we covered that. So she checks her weight every day. This is a really important part, by the way. Like a part of changing is tracking current habits and new habits. Because if you're not tracking it, you're going to automatically fall into the old habits. I don't know if you've heard this, but you know when you're in a desert, I don't know if this is true, by the way, I've just heard it, but you're in a desert and you're walking. You're walking straight, right? But it's a desert. It's so big and vast, you have no idea where you're walking, right? But usually people, when they get lost and they never find a way back, it's because when people are walking, they cannot determine which way they're going. So what ends up happening, because of some of us are, when you're right-handed, left-handed, you're like right-legged and left-legged, something like that. So it means that like one leg is going to take a little bit longer steps than the other, which ends up happening like, or what ends up happening is like you're walking in a big circle around the desert. And that's why it's impossible to like get out of there. So think about this. If you don't know, if you think you're doing something, you're just walking and walking, but you're not tracking it, you don't know where you're going, you have no idea about, like, just do things, you're going to be lost anyways, even if you think you're doing things. And that's why you hear a lot of people, maybe even you, say, like, I'm doing stuff, I'm doing this and that, I'm still not losing weight, right? So this is one of the basic things. You got to track something. You got to know where you're heading, right? So that's why we have this as a daily routine. And then the daily Quran, and also the daily fuel plan. This is one of the things I've developed, I think is amazing. This is how you can, like, you don't have to do diets ever again. So pay close attention if that's something you want to hear. So before we start, the fuel plan, the idea here is contrary to a diet plan wants you to eat less, right? Whereas a fuel plan, you look at things differently. You look at things in terms of fueling your body. That's why you call it a fuel plan. So we want to fuel, we want to close the gaps, the deficiencies you have in your body, right? Because the theory here is if you're not losing weight, it's because your body's either missing something or they're getting too much of something. That's it, right? As a diet, like eating less, sure, it might work short term, but what if you eat less of what you actually need, right? And that's why many of you might end up very tired and end up getting cravings because you're creating or worsening deficiencies you had in the first place. So let's say you had an iron deficiency and now you're eating less iron because you just eat less, and then it turns into a negative spiral, right? So the fuel plan we do it like you eat better, right? And sometimes you even eat more, right? Again, just because you eat more doesn't mean you won't lose weight in terms of the foods you eat. So the idea here is like building a daily routine you can follow, still eating the foods you usually eat, right? The foods you love, but finding a balance between fueling the body, giving the body what it needs, and also enjoying. Because that's part of the Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ, he also enjoyed eating foods. Now, obviously, in their time, they didn't have the processed food we have today, so we need to be more cautious. But still, like there were obviously high calorie stuff, unhealthy stuff back then. So the idea here is we split it up into the daily fuel plan into a nutrition part and a movement part, right? So here, for example, in terms of nutrition, usually there are three categories, right? I don't want to go too deep, but just to give you an idea. So the first category is your daily meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, or whatever you eat. The second category is the snacking. So daily snacking or weekly or whatever, binge snacking, cravings. And the third one is eating out, takeaways, junk food, stuff like that. That's usually the three categories you have as a modern Muslim, right? You know, some of you might not have one of these categories. You might not even snack. You might not even eat out, right? But usually what I see is like there's a pattern. Usually there are these three things, the daily meals, the snacking, or the eating out, or at least two of them, right? In Aisha's case, we worked on all of them. And the first one is the meal strategy, so the daily meals. She doesn't eat breakfast, totally fine. So only lunch and dinner. So what we found was she wasn't eating enough protein and she was overloading the carbs because she didn't get enough energy. So her body thought, like, hold on, we need more energy because we're not getting what we need, protein and stuff like that. So we need to compensate it. And the body doesn't care. It doesn't care if you kind of gain weight or not. They just want to survive, you know. And then we noticed that there were no fiber source at all. So we added this for lunch and dinner. That's it. She can still eat. So she has a Somali background. So she can still eat her, you know, Somali cuisine, the rice and the meat and all of that. It's not about the food itself. It's about the choices you make, how you approach the food. That's the whole idea with the fuel plan. Secondly, we got the snacking. This was a big thing for her, right? Because she was struggling a lot with cravings. So now what we did was there are many ways you can go about snacking. This really depends because snacking is such a personal thing. Either you snack because of emotional reasons or you snack because of other reasons, such as you might have a deficiency or you might have a trigger that you watch TV or whatever, right? So it can be emotional or environmental triggers or reasons. In her case, it was a little bit of both. So one strategy we did was, without going too deep into it, something I call the stoplight method. This is basically, instead of categorizing snacks into healthy, unhealthy, which I think makes no sense anyways, is to categorize them into three categories. Just as a traffic light or stoplight, you have, what is it, red, yellow, green, right? So starting off with the green, these are all the snacks you can have unlimited amounts of. So, for example, these are usually snacks that are low in calories, high in nutrition. You got fruits, vegetables, popcorn, stuff like that. This is just to have knowing what snacks you should, like, you can go for, right? Opt for. Then we got the next color, which is yellow. Yellow is in between. So funny enough, many healthy snacks comes into yellow. So you got dried fruits, nuts, seeds, avocados, things that are very high nutrition, but also high in calories, right? Now, calories are not dangerous. That's not what I'm saying, but you want to find moderation. That's the whole idea with the fuel plan. So everything that fits into the yellow, from the things I mentioned or other things, you want to do two things here, right? You want to limit the frequency. So how many times you're going to eat it per day. This is what we have here. How many snacks did you have from yellow and red? I'm going to go to red in a second. So you want to limit the frequency. How many times you eat it in a day or in a week? So this really depends on you, right? So if you're a binge snacker and you do it like every day, you kind of want to limit that, right? How many times? Maybe 2, 3 times to once a day, right? From the yellow. And the second thing is limiting the quantity. So limit frequency, how many times? Limit quantity, how much? Simple. And the red one, you do the same things. Limit frequency, how many times? Limit quantity, how much? And then you compensate it, right? So let me go through this and will make sense. So how many snacks from yellow and red? So this is what we did. Limit in terms of frequency, and now limit in terms of quantity. So I said, if you had a red or yellow snack, did you follow the small plate method? So these plates you have when you drink either a cup of coffee or tea, you have them, whatever you call them. I don't know what you call them. You know, cup plates. These very small ones, anyways. So this is small plate method. So whatever you can fit on that plate without stacking it like a tower, that's what you can eat and snack on, right? So this gives you something tangible. Instead of saying, I'm never going to snack again, you have the limit, like, okay, I can snack once today, right? And if I'm going to snack, I'm going to put it this quantity, this amount, right? So that's for the yellow. For the red, again, I said compensation looks different. In Aisha's case, we did this one that we remove carbohydrates during dinner on the same day or next. So let's say she wanted to have an ice cream in the evening, right? Watch some TV, relax. Cool. So for dinner, before doing the ice cream thing, she could easily just remove the rice during dinner, just eat the chicken or whatever, the meat, and some vegetables, because she's going to get some carbs later anyways, right? So this is compensation. You borrow, carbs or energy or saving up so that you can have that snack, the red snack. So red snacks are usually like what you would call unhealthy snacks. Low in nutrition, high in energy, high in calories, right? So that's the snacking. And then we had an eating out strategy because she was also eating out. So, checking if she's eating out. Did you eat out today? Yes or no? And then we create something like out eating stack. So there are different ways to go about it. In this case, I told her, look, when you go and eat out, make sure to add extra protein, right? So let's say you go and eat chicken Alfredo, okay? And then you do this, you follow this stack. You stack these, what's called conditions or these modifications on top of each other. So first, extra protein. So chicken Alfredo, extra chicken. Next one, half carb or skip carbs if you can, right? So you tell them like, I want less pasta if that's possible, right? And then the next one is to have a diet soda or water, right? So liquid calories are very easy to consume. So that's the third step. The fourth step is having a compensation strategy. Same thing with the red snacks, if you remember, to remove carbs or remove a meal, skip a meal so that you can have this meal. Doesn't mean that you have to do all of them, but it helps you to kind of, instead of having a binary thing, I eat out and I go crazy, or I never eat out. But what if you can find something in the middle, right? So that's what we wanted to find. And then lastly, workout strategy. She didn't have a workout. In fact, she had a step goal. So every day she either do 8,000 steps according to plan A. If she didn't do that, she went to plan B doing 3,000 steps. If she couldn't even do that, she would do the plan C, the 1,000 steps, right? So that's the daily fuel plan. And I know I went through this, and you might think, oh, how long does this take, man? She does all of this in less than 10 minutes a day. Imagine Qur'an, the plan A is basically reading one page, 3 minutes. And then the other things with the foods and everything, that's just a part of you are going to eat the foods anyway, so it's not extra time. There's no extra prep time. There's no extra weighing time, weighing the food and counting calories or whatever, right? You're eating the same food, and that's why this is so. If you're busy, doing it this way makes things so much easier and more simpler, right? Oh yeah, and then we have the daily istighfar. So what we do, we set up a habit so we can track each habit. So in this case, she wanted to track the istighfar, and she hasn't, like 100%. She hasn't missed it. I haven't seen this before. She's, mashallah, be going at it. So it's like 100 istighfar a day, right? Astaghfirullah, 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 right? So yeah, and then the walking. That's part of the daily field plan. That's it. And that helped her to achieve what I showed you earlier, losing this weight while making Qur'an, Salah, and Dhikr a daily habit, which is amazing, right? So remember when I talked about the 3-step system? I actually made a video about that. So if that's something you want to like look more into and see how this Sunnah weight loss system can help you, I would really recommend you to check it out. You can go into the description down below. I will add it there as a first link. You can watch that video and find more about like how you can structure the whole system up for your lifestyle, and why it is better in my opinion, and if it could help you, right? So watch that video and take that step. Take that step like Aisha did. Like whatever step it is, just take it. You never know what your life is gonna be in 6 months from now. But you know how you can go to where you want to be in 6 months just by changing at least one habit today. Inshallah ta'ala. So hopefully this was beneficial. Inshallah. See you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.